and welcome to the Crimson Misery Podcast, episode 40. My name is Will Rainbolt. I hope you all are doing well. It is Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Just got to the end of the Montana Northern Colorado game. Congratulations to Montana on clinching the Big Sky tournament title as a co-regular season champion along with Northern Colorado. I'll get to that game in a second. It is pretty late while I'm recording this, but I wanted to get this episode out before Thursday because that's where a lot of the major conferences really start to get into high gear, even though the Big 12 and ACC and SEC tournaments and Big 10, but basically like the next few rounds. Can you tell that I'm really tired? So anyway, with that being said, if you all are listening on Spotify or Apple or wherever you get your podcasts, considering the show 5 stars. If you are listening on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment down below. Let's get right into it. So, I want to make this a little bit quick, even though I want to still cover this because Indiana, Oregon starts at noon, so I want to make sure to get some sleep. But at the same time, I do want to be a little bit. I do want to dive into a lot. So on Monday, we had the semifinals of the West Coast Conference tournament: St. Mary's over Pepperdine, and then Gonzaga over San Francisco. And then Gonzaga ended up winning over St. Mary's 58 to 51. It was a very low scoring game. St. Mary's went, I believe they went 0 for 16 from the 3-point line. Yeah, 0 for 16. And Gonzaga went 1 for 15. So it was a pretty horrific shooting night for both teams. Um, St. Mary's, especially, was really bad aside from Mitchell Saxon, who had 20. Um, I still like St. Mary's a lot. I think they rebound really well. I think when they are hitting their shots, they're pretty difficult to beat a lot of the time, especially when Augustus Marchulonis and Paulus Morauskas hit their shots. Mikey Lewis went 0 for 7 from three. They were still doing what they normally do. They were like tapping back rebounds, and again, they're one of the best rebounding teams in the country. But Gonzaga, when they play, they play a lot of their best basketball in March. We saw this last year with them making a Sweet 16 run that was otherwise not really a great year by their standards. Um, I I've been on record saying that this Gonzaga team, in spite of their name, is not an NCAA tournament team looking at their resume, but now they are. They are in the tournament. Both them and St. Mary's are in. I don't think any other West Coast Conference team is getting in, especially San Francisco, who was probably the only other one with any real shot. But losing to Gonzaga twice in the last couple of weeks has been a really big disappointment for them. So Graham Ike has been really good. He had a really good game against San Francisco. Not his best performance here, but Ryan Nimhard, he wasn't scoring a lot, but still was able to slow the game down as a point guard. That's what he's expected to do, obviously. But Caliph Battle had 14, Braden Huff had 18. It was interesting him starting over Ben Gregg, even though he might be hurt at this point. He didn't. Um, he hasn't had a fantastic year, at least not the year that I thought he was really going to have. That partially is why I think Gonzaga has struggled a little bit, but they didn't really get a lot of bench scoring. It was mainly their starters, and fortunately, because of St. Mary's also shooting really poorly, it didn't really matter all that much. Um, so yeah, congratulations to Gonzaga. We'll see both of them in the NCAA tournament. St. Mary's around a five, I believe, 5 or 6, and then Gonzaga about an 8, 7 or 8. I would assume at this point. Um, it's still pretty interesting to see where it'll go from here, but we shall see. So a couple other finals that happened. Troy is going to the tournament. Troy beating Arkansas State 94 to 81. Tayton Connerway had 21.6 rebounds in this one. Troy 33 for 39 from the free throw line. This was a hack fest, so definitely not like. of all the teams that have like clinched auto bids and whatnot, Troy is probably one of the teams that I have paid attention to the least. But at the same time, they're right. Joe Lenardi has them as a 14. Delphi has them, let's see, as a 14. So yeah, right around a 14 line. I'm not I'm not really thinking, especially if they play a team like Iowa State. Um, I'm not sure that they'll be able to pull off an upset. But you know, it could be, it could happen, it could happen. I just yeah, I was kind of expecting Arkansas State to win this one, both co-champions of the Sun Belt. But congratulations to Troy for winning this one. um, they do. I mean, Troy does. I mean, in the tournament, like they did have some really good guard play. But at the same time, I just like they're not a team I've watched all that much, so can't really say a ton about them. Wofford, kind of a little bit similar, even though I've seen more of the SoCon. Wofford defeated Furman 92-85, so they get the automatic bid there. Currently, I think most bracketologists have Wofford as around a 15. And kind of the same deal. I don't really see Wofford pulling off an upset, but even still, like because the record's not really that impressive. They're either a 15 or a 16, even though most bracketologists I think have them as a 15. Um, yeah, I don't. Not a ton to say about it. I just don't think they're gonna be able to pull off an upset. Although if that does happen, I'll definitely be eating crow on that one. So yeah, let's. So that was Monday, and then on Tuesday, of course, I talked about Gonzaga St. Mary's. A couple other games of note. I mean, the ACC tournament started. California and Notre Dame both won, only to lose the next day. Colorado has beat TCU and then beat West Virginia. So man, I know like a lot of people, especially like Joe Lenardi, love West Virginia. Um, I don't know, man. I'm really Delphi has them as a 10 currently. I'm just not as impressed with West Virginia as some people are. Like I get it, they have some really good wins this year. I just don't I guess I just don't get it, right? I mean, they do have. I'm not trying to minimize a lot of their wins. Like they have wins over Kansas. They beat Iowa State, but at the same time, they've really not been playing well as of late. I mean, Jerry Palm has them as a 10 as well. I feel like they should just be more on the bubble than people are really giving. Like I think I mean, it's maybe I mean, Baylor at least beat Kansas State. So at the same time, I do I mean, they also have a win over West Virginia in the lone time they played. So at this point, like there's good reason to maybe put West Virginia ahead of or Baylor ahead of West Virginia right now. Um, I don't know. That may just be me though. I just feel like Baylor has a little bit higher of a ceiling, even though a lot of bracketologists don't really have that. That's just me though. Colorado is going to be playing Houston, so that run will probably end for them. But still pretty funny to see a 16 seed make the quarterfinals. So, couple other finals to mention in the let's I mean, I cannot wait to get to some of this. So, UNC Wilmington over Delaware 76-72. So they won the Coastal Athletic Association, not the Colonial Athletic Association. Donovan Newby had 17 points to lead the way. Um, a guy definitely to watch out for, averaging almost 15 points per game. I think if UNC Wilmington does end up pulling off an upset, it'll be through him. Um, Currently, they're also around a 14 seed, um, which I feel like of the 14 seeds, um, I definitely think they have some of the best shot to pull off an upset. I'd put them over Troy, and right now, like a team like Utah Valley, I would put them ahead of that. However, they are facing St. John's in this most recent bracketology, so like, I mean that's a really bad matchup. So, and again, I have St. John's. I would think St. John's goes pretty far. I mean, a lot of the best teams in the country have yet to be playing because the quarterfinals have not started yet. So, um, especially for a lot of, especially for the ACC um, and the Big 12 and the SEC, are they're starting tomorrow, and then the quarterfinals for the Big Ten is on Friday because they are always the Big Ten title is the last game to always be played. But that being said, UNC Wilmington has had a really great year. I'll be interested to see what matchup they end up getting because I feel like they might have the best shot to pull off an upset. St. Francis pulls off an upset over Central Connecticut, 46-43. I believe Central Connecticut had a last second opportunity to tie the game, but it was like a really like long half court shot. St. Francis hit the game winning shot um, with like 10 seconds to go, I want to say. So yeah, to put them ahead by two, I believe, and then they got fouled and made one of two free throws. But this was an upset I wasn't really expecting. Like Central Connecticut's been really consistent most of the year. I felt like if they had won, they'd be around a 14 or a 15. I mean, St. Francis is definitely a 16. Like let's be real. But yeah, not a ton to say about it. St. Francis is definitely going to be playing in Dayton, like because I mean, of course, they have a losing record, so definitely going to be in the first four. But congratulations, regardless, for to winning the Northeast Conference. Robert Morris wins the Horizon League 89-78 over Youngstown State. Like, man, I wanted the Penguins to win, but Robert Morris, especially with the moniker of Colonials, that's definitely not a great name. Um, but yeah, I just yeah, just a lot of world news that's been getting to me. So, but that being said, Josh Omojafo had 24 points. He's another guy that you probably need to watch out for. He's been very good as of late. I think he's averaging close to like 17 or 18 points per game in his last like four games, which is pretty remarkable for a guy in the Horizon League. So definitely, definitely want to keep out for that. Robert Morris currently um, is a 15. I don't know if they're gonna. I mean, it depends on the matchup, but they are 26-8. So I feel like that would be a little low. I mean, that's kind of a dangerous 15, especially facing Tennessee. I mean, that's the most recent bracketology anyway. Um, whew, I don't know about that one, man. I mean, also Michigan State is what Delphi has. Um, And Alabama. Okay, I think Alabama is a pretty good lock. I would think. Michigan State's a maybe. Tennessee is very concerning, and even Texas A&M. That's a concerning matchup because Robert Morris does have quite a lot of scorers on their team, so that's a bit concerning if you're a two facing that 15 seed in Robert Morris, depending on if they actually do get that seed. But that being said, I don't. I mean, that's a pretty unfortunate matchup to ask. So anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Wednesday delivered us, which is technically yesterday. Um, yeah, not the. I'm so tired, but I also wanted to mention that th- yesterday, being Wednesday, was the six overtimes. Syracuse and UConn back in the 2009 Big East tournament. I believe that was the quarterfinals. Whew, that's a game that will always live on in infamy. Just when the Big East was actually the Big East. I hate to say, like, back in my day when I was watching college basketball, the Big East had 16 teams and 11 of them made the NCAA tournament. But no, it was so good. If you weren't around for that original original Big East, whew, and I wasn't alive for when it was really really good with like when Georgetown and Syracuse was like truly a rivalry, and then like UConn and Pittsburgh and Villanova and St. John's were all like tournament regulars, and then you are added like Marquette and Louisville and Notre Dame, and yeah, just a fantastic conference. Still miss that to this very day. Not a lot of nostalgia even for when it was in its like last a couple years. So in the Big 12, we had Iowa State defeating Cincinnati 76-56. Not much of a surprise. By the way, that Big 12 court is just like I'm like I feel like I've been hypnotized because of that court. Like I'm hypnotized thinking I'm like a Kansas Jayhawks super fan right now, um, which is like kind of wild. But um, no, I mean Iowa State's playing better. Their last two games have been better. Justin Jefferson or Joshua Jefferson, 19 points, 8 rebounds to lead the way. They looked a lot better. Same thing with Baylor defeating Kansas State. Um, yeah, kind of an unceremonious end to Kansas State's supposed super team with Doug McDaniel and Coleman Hawkins. Um, yeah, just kind of a not really something to celebrate. Although they might, I mean, with how bad the bubble is, maybe they'll get in the NIT. Who really knows? But um, yeah, definitely not a game that was like incredibly noteworthy. Although Baylor getting that win again, as I said earlier, uh, to me that probably should put them over West Virginia, who, as I mentioned, lost to Colorado 67-60. Colorado is a bad loss, lest we forget. And then Kansas avoided another kind of bad loss, barely in overtime, barely beating again Kansas beat Utah, UCF. Can you tell I'm tired? Uh, by 51 points, I believe, at UCF, and then UCF lost by I believe it was 4 in Allen Fieldhouse, and then they lose by 4 here to Kansas. Um, to be fair to Kansas, Hunter Dickinson played really well on the offensive end at the very least. Um, Kansas offensively I would give them an A against a UCF defense that's like not really great this year, which is kind of like irregular for a lot of Johnny Dawkins led teams. Usually it's their defense that's decent. It's the offense that usually bites them in the ass. But um, no, but with I mean nothing is nothing will make me uh, nothing will make me think Kansas is a good defensive team because this is not a good defensive team at all. Allowing 94 points to UCF and nearly choking the game away. Again, they led wire to wire in the first half, got the lead up to 13 in the second half, and they just melted. Kansas melted, and then somehow the Phoenix rose from its ashes. Um, Zeke Mayo at 24. Eight. We finally had an AJ Store sighting. A season high of 19 points. Again, AJ Store, I believe, averaged close to like 18 points last year, and he's averaging the 5.5 points. And this is, 16 points. Okay, so 16.8, nearly 17 points. Even still not the year he's been expecting, but finally a decent showing for him. I believe his previous season high was 16. Um, I it wouldn't surprise me. This is hyperbole, but like that's like the only game it feels like he's scored double digits in. Um, and man, the Kansas need those 19 points though, because otherwise they would have lost to UCF. Um, yeah, Kansas, I believe, plays Arizona next. I do think Kansas will win that game only because I really dislike Arizona. Not like a personal vendetta, but I I just hate the way this team plays. And I do not trust Tommy Lloyd. I do not trust this Arizona team with my life. So, but watch them make the Elite Eight, as I said that, even though I just don't think they have the high end talent for that type of run. I do think Kansas will win that one, even though I dislike Kansas more than I do Arizona. I'll probably be rooting for Arizona, but I do pick Kansas to win that game. Uh, and I will definitely admit that. So, moving on to the ACC, North Carolina gets the win over Notre Dame, 76-56. Right now, North Carolina, despite even though they've been really bad in most Quad One games, in basically all of their Quad One games, they're currently in the tournament according to Joe Lenardi. According to Jerry Palm, they're currently out. So there is some disagreement among the bracketologists there. Um, but they did get a win. It's like a stay alive game. However, if they do lose to Wake Forest, definitely, I definitely don't think they're tournament worthy. I think if they do beat Wake Forest, however, then they definitely should get some more consideration. Um, Other than that, though, I don't really have much more to say about it. They're beating up on the bad ACC teams as they should, but again, they're 13-7 in this conference. That's not very good. So um, I'm just saying. Um, Georgia Tech defeated Virginia 66-60. The only reason why I'm really mentioning this game is one, it is in the ACC tournament, but also number two, it appears that Virginia is moving on from Ron Sanchez in his one and likely only year as Virginia interim head coach. They will be coach searching, so they are basically in the same vein as Indiana right now with their head coaching search, even though this was like an interim gig, so whatever. Stanford defeated California, even though both teams were, despite Andrei Stojakovic, the the son of I'm completely Peja Stojakovic. Why did I forget his first name? Peja Stojakovic. I am so fucking exhausted. This is great podcasting, by the way. Um, but Stanford, I believe, will be facing Louisville next game. Uh, I believe, yeah. So Louisville versus Stanford, and then it'll be SMU, who I believe defeated who did they defeat? Um, they defeated Syracuse. That's right, 73-53. They're not in the tournament despite having 23 wins. That's how bad the ACC has been. So currently Louisville and Clemson are on the other side of the bracket, and depending on if North Carolina can defeat Wake Forest, that's who they play next. Duke will be playing Georgia Tech, 1 versus 8. Um, my prediction is that North Carolina will somehow win this game, and then it'll be Duke versus North Carolina part three because that's just what seems to happen. And then, unless something really crazy happens, I think it'll be Louisville versus Clemson in the semifinals. So it's very likely we could get like a Duke Louisville matchup in the ACC tournament. That'll be my prediction. Yeah, Duke versus Louisville. I think that's the most likely. Even though I could see Clemson as well defeating Louisville, but I'm just gonna go with Louisville because they have the head-to-head win, which it was at Louisville, but still, that's what I have there. And then moving on, a couple of Big Ten tournament games. Ohio State lost to Iowa. So what? So I was I went after this dude when football season was on, Barstool Tate, um, and because he was like, oh, he's a big Ohio State fan. Obviously, he works for Barstool, which is already such an eye roll, right? But he was like, comparing Indiana and Ohio State's resumes, and like Ohio State has like a better net ranking and whatnot, and like a better record against quad one opponents, and buddy, Indiana beat you twice, and then you can't even get out of the first round of the Big Ten tournament to an Iowa team that's like been struggling so hard. This is the same deal with Nebraska, right? Iowa beat Nebraska to basically in their tournament hopes, and then they beat Ohio State to in their tournament hopes. So Iowa's been playing spoiler. It was pretty. I mean, Bruce Thornton tried his best, had 24 points, but Iowa, with their offense, especially with their 3-point shooters, as you know, Josh Dix and Price Sanford. I don't know if Peyton Sanford actually had like a decent game. Um, because watching this one, he wasn't really that effective in the second half, even though he had 17 points. Price Sanford though hit some big shots. Same with Harding and Josh Dix. Um, but yeah, for Ohio State, that is a loss you cannot have, um, to an Iowa team that is pretty mediocre and bad, I would say. So that is definitely a bad loss, and that definitely knocks um, Ohio State out of the tournament, at least for now, because the bubble is. Lest we forget, the bubble is pretty weak. So um, I mean, Rutgers season ends with a 15-17 record despite I mean in overtime with a 97 to 89 loss to USC in double overtime, um despite Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey being top 5 NBA draft prospects, right? They end the season 15-17. God, I mean that's I've said this before and I'll say it again. When people like NBA draft, people who are studying the draft and see, or NBA fans seeing Harper and Bailey go in the first round, pretty early in the first round, and they're like, "Wow, Rutgers must have been awesome." And then you look at the record, and then it's like, "Oh my God." Yeah, that's been this entire year watching Rutgers basketball. Um, I mean, it was just a never-ending disappointment for Rutgers. Um, I mean that was preseason top 25, by the way. Um, good lord. Yeah, that definitely maybe better seasons to come, but this experiment was a disaster, and I would not be surprised if Steve Peichel got his ass canned for it. Because allowing 97 points to a USC team, this USC team, like I mean Desmond Collard and Wesley Yates are both really good. But that's not a number you want next to their name because Rutgers prides themselves. Steve Peichel prides himself as a defensive oriented coach, plays like the most unwatchable brand of basketball. And this time he actually was like, okay, let's, be more offensive with my two NBA prospects and let's have a 15-17 record. Um, yeah, I would not be surprised if this were the end of the Peichel era. Although it's also worth asking like who is really better for Rutgers basketball. It's kind of synonymous at this point. But I've been wrong before, I will admit. The SEC also started as well. Um, that was on what the hell? Why did it go back to Tuesday? Okay. Yeah. So Arkansas pretty much, I mean, they almost collapsed from a 17-point lead at halftime against South Carolina, but they ended up winning. DJ Wagner I believe he hit a big three late in this one. I believe it was DJ Wagner. If I'm wrong, no, it was DJ Wagner. I was right. So, yeah, Arkansas, despite not having Boogie Fland and in spite of having John Calipari as their head coach, they are making the tournament. Pretty much locked them in at this point. Um, they're, I believe, on the last four buys currently. They are. And yeah, I mean, avoided another bit bad loss to South Carolina, which they already have one of those, and having two of those would not have been good. So, um, Texas kept their bubble hopes alive, even though they're still in the last four out. Um, they've defeated Vanderbilt 79-72, so they will play Texas A&M in their next game. Even though I imagine that A&M's probably going to win that game, although with this with how inconsistent that Texas A&M team, I can definitely imagine it. Trey Johnson, I gotta say he bounced back a little bit. He didn't go 0 for 14 this time. Still not a great shooting percentage, but it was better. It was better, and it was enough. Him and Tremont Mark and Jordan Pope were all in double figures. Arthur Kaluma at 11 as well. So Texas definitely getting a little bit closer, but they have to beat Texas A&M. Otherwise, I think they're pretty much out. Even though I do kind of want to see Trey Johnson in the NCAA tournament, but for Vanderbilt, they're making the tournament, kind of limping into it. They've definitely struggled. They've lost three in a row now to three bubble teams. Well, I guess Georgia's kind of off the bubble now, but even still, not a great way to end the year. They lost three in a row, and then they won three in a row, and then they all lost three in a row, which is kind of the SEC in a nutshell. Um, I still think there's a lot of good with this Vanderbilt team, especially with Jason Edwards, and Tyler Nickel, and Devin McLaughlin. But when they're not shooting well, their offense really because there it really takes a major hit because they do shoot a lot of threes as a lot of SEC teams do. Um, and they're not the best like percentage wise they're not the best at it. I like their offensive scheme, but they just really don't have the players like at least not the shooters that are like well equipped for that style of offense. So that being said, Vanderbilt is still a very intriguing team depending on what matchup they end up getting. um, oh yeah, Northwestern also beat Minnesota. So Dawson Garcia's career for Minnesota likely ends 22.7 rebounds. It'll be interesting to see if an NBA team scoops him up maybe in the late first round, early second round. Another guy to definitely watch out for on NBA draft boards. But yeah, Northwestern, I believe, will be playing Wisconsin next. Yeah, that's right. So definitely interesting to see if Wisconsin can bounce back after the loss to Penn State, which is still kind of crazy to say. And then Oregon, Indiana is at noon. That's kind of why I don't want to speed run this podcast, but it's why I want to get some sleep at the very least to calm my nerves because Indiana is like it's weird because Jerry Palm has them safely in as a 10 seed, and then Joe Lenardi has them as like in the last four in. Um, so I may not be feeling as good about. I mean, it's great they beat Ohio State because that is to me, at least to me, it's a win that got them at least. At the worst case scenario, I think it's a first four game that end up playing if they lose to Oregon. But if they beat Oregon, I think they are safely in. I don't think there's a real reason to keep them out at that point. So and then as well, you also have Iowa facing Illinois. I think Illinois will win that one. They've been shooting better, but just keep in mind they shoot a lot of threes, and they kind of like Vanderbilt are not like percentage wise not a very good 3-point shooting team. And then Purdue plays USC. I think Purdue will win that one, but kind of the same deal. Can their defense finally pull together, bounce back after the loss to Illinois? We'll see. Um, it'll definitely be interesting. And then Michigan State, UCLA. UCLA as the four seed, that's the team that was confirmed to get the double bye. And then Maryland is the two. And then Michigan is the three. So very interesting games to end up watching, uh, especially once the quarterfinals happen on Friday. So very excited to see what ends up happening there. Um, McNeese moving on to the other mid-major tournaments that ended up concluding. McNeese defeated Lamar 63-54. This was a much tougher game than I thought it was going to be. Lamar was hanging in there for quite a bit, um, especially um, with Andrew Holofield. Evander Holyfield. Oh, Mike Tyson. Unfortunately, McNeese, I don't believe has a Tyson on their roster. So, um, he played pretty well. Um, Alexis Marmelos had 18 points as well, but then McNeese, they have amazing athleticism for a mid-major team. And at 27-6, I've said my piece about Will Wade about how he's been a very controversial head coach, especially with recruiting violations and whatnot. Um, man, it's getting difficult to like really say no as a potential head coaching candidate for Indiana. Like it's kind of getting difficult because Dew knows how to coach. Southland regular season and tournament champions. He's proven to win. He's been I mean he's not a bad coach at all. The thing that just that concerns me is that that kind of what's that word, reputation that he has as a cheater, which is definitely not a great look. And I'll admit that first and foremost. But God damn it, do I want Indiana basketball to be good? Um, no, I mean at least the women's team will be in the tournament, even if the men's team doesn't end up getting in. So, but on that note, we'll see. But again, it's a couple of highlight reel dunks that even though Lamar did a great job at shutting them down, they still were. McNeese was still getting to the basket quite a bit. They're a team that is currently on the 13 line, I believe, 12 perhaps. Um, I actually don't see them right now. Oh wow, Vanderbilt's at an 11. Interesting. Okay, so Lenardi did kind of punish them a little bit more for that loss, or at least on his bracket. Um, where the hell did they go? Where did McNeese go? Um, I do not see them. Okay, McNeese as a 12 would be facing St. Mary's according to this bracket. Um, in Delphi, McNeese would be facing Clemson, which would be an interesting matchup. I don't know, because Clemson I do like quite a bit. And then on this one, yeah, they'd also be facing Clemson. Okay, that's very interesting. Um, wow, that would be a very interesting matchup. Because Clemson has a lot of really talented players. So, wow, that'd be a tough matchup to pick. Wow, St. Mary's definitely could be the same way. McNeese is, I'm definitely thinking McNeese could win a game in the NCAA tournament just based on their athleticism and Will Wade being their head coach. Again, say what you will about him, dude knows how to coach. Um, anyway, before I get too sidetracked there, um, some other games of note. American defeated Navy, so American has won the Patriot League 74-52, I believe. American is a 16. Yeah, they're 16 right now. According to Lenardi, they'd be facing St. Francis. So, but even still, I guess congratulations to American. I guess I don't know. Um, little too conservative for my liking, potentially. But at least it's not Liberty, right? Even though I believe Liberty, um, just making sure, yeah, they're currently a 12 according to Joe Lenardi. They begin play on uh, Friday, I believe. Yeah, um, yeah, the 14th. Uh, interesting. It's weird not seeing Liberty in the Patriot League anymore. But anyway, moving right along, we have Montana beating Northern Colorado for the Big Sky Championship. Montana definitely same like 15 seed potentially 15 maybe 14 um, defeated Northern Colorado. And this was a reminder that yes, Joe Cravens is in fact the announcer for the Big Sky tournament. It's very obvious. Um, he's he distracted me so much in this game because once again, like, um, he has this very southern type charm, or at least country accent. And Joe Cravens, I believe, yeah, he's from Scottsburg, Indiana. So he's he has the famous quote of saying like, um, if you can't shoot 3 pointers and you're from Indiana, then they ship you off to Kentucky, or some quote like that. I think he said that a couple of years ago. And this, by the way, this is not making fun of Southern people and like Southern accents, even though I am inadvertently making fun of Southern accents because my God, was it distracting. Um, a couple of like Joe Cravenisms that he had was like at one point he's like guarding this guy is like running through a field of jello or something to that extent, and then he was like referring to, it was either an official or a head coach, one of the head coaches. He was like, well, he's definitely strung up like a banjo. And it was like, bro, and every time he would give analysis, like I just couldn't stop laughing. It was so funny. um but I mean, as for the game itself, it was very high scoring. um Kai Johnson had 23 points. A guy to definitely watch out for if Montana does get a favorable matchup in this tournament. They had four starters were in double figures. Northern Colorado, Jaron Riley had 24. Definitely thought Northern Colorado was going to win this game. And same deal, they had 4 players in double figures, but overall, Montana just, I mean, the main deal, at least for me, um, was rebounding. It just seemed like they were um, North Montana was getting a little bit being more aggressive rebounding wise. Because other than that, they were pretty much equal in a lot of the games. Uh, uh, Stretches and it really just wasn't, it was just a really fast-paced kind of game, and Montana just ended up hitting more shots down the stretch. Free throws definitely helped them. They were 24 of 28. Northern Colorado was 17 of 20. But yeah, all in all, great job from Montana winning the Big Sky, and they will be in the tournament. So congrats to them again. Tomorrow, and again, this is, I'll probably have a podcast tomorrow. I mean today being Thursday. I'll probably try to get an episode out Saturday night, uh, which is obviously a day before Selection Sunday. Um, I'm so excited. Oh man, this is, and I'm nervous. Don't get me wrong, I am very nervous, but but even still, I will admit that um, that Indiana, even if Indiana doesn't end up making the tournament, then like, it's not the end of the world, because this field is still very intriguing for me. So um, anyway, I don't really know. Okay, just wanted to make sure I had all my leaving no stone unturned. So Green Bay so this is on the women's side. Green Bay at 29-5, 19-1 in the Horizon League, 176 to 63. Um, Definitely, I think my dad was in attendance for this game. My dad and stepmom were in attendance. So, and my dad was like, "Go Green Bay," even though like I didn't know like what I don't, yeah, I wasn't quite sure like why that was the case, but regardless, Green Bay ended up winning, so good for them, I guess. Or I don't know. Currently, Green Bay is, I believe a 14. 13. Okay, so they're a 13 seed. They would play Ohio State. That's a pretty interesting matchup. We'll see if how they handle Cody McMahon and Jelani Cambridge. I'd be very interested in seeing that game, if said game ends up happening. Um, Oregon State won the West. I almost said Pac 12 because Man, I'm still not used to Oregon State not being in that conference, but they upset Portland, who was 29-4, um, 59 to 46. So that was very. I mean, so despite losing Talia von Oelhoffen to USC, it was very interesting to see Oregon State win this one. So um, was not expecting that, but at the same time, um, good for them pulling off the big upset because I again Portland was definitely expected to win that one and make the NCAA tournament. And then in the same breath, like Montana State defeated Montana. So even though Montana won the on the men's side, Montana State at 30-3 and 17-1, the Big Sky won 58 to 57. Um, very, I think believe they won on a buzzer beater from who was it? Um, Gosh, I can't remember. Even though I was like watching this game, I kind of had because I was in between like a bunch of different games. So yeah, Mara Dykstra. Um, with I think there was like an offensive. I think she got it off the offensive rebound, um, and won the game for them. So that was a pretty exciting game to watch the conclusion of. So congratulations to Montana State. Um, yeah, so oh boy, yeah, lots of things happening. Big East is also starting the quarterfinals, so Butler and St. John's are playing. UConn also in action. I believe they play. Is it Villanova? Yeah, Villanova. Um, that'll definitely be interesting to see. Creighton plays DePaul. And then Marquette will be playing Xavier. It's an interesting game for Xavier because currently they are on the last four in. So winning against Marquette would basically put them in the tournament at this point. Um, so very interesting to see that happen. Also, Mountain West quarterfinal starting Boise State, who is also on the bubble. They're actually in the first four out, playing San Diego State, who is currently on the last four buys. That's that's going to be very interesting to watch. New Mexico also in action against San Jose State. Utah State will be playing UNLV. Colorado State, who is also on the bubble as in the last four out, will be playing Nevada. So there's a chance that the Mountain West could be. I mean, it'll be a multi-bid league with New Mexico, Utah State, and San Diego State. But it's just a matter of if Colorado State or Boise State make a run, which will be very interesting to see. Um, yeah, Oklahoma plays Kentucky in the SEC tournament. Um, after defeating Georgia, that was the other game. Georgia definitely in the tournament, as I said, but Oklahoma definitely needed a win to keep their tournament hopes alive. I think they're in the last four in, so having lost that game, they probably would have been sweating on Selection Sunday. But also, Mississippi State beat LSU. That was not much of a surprise, even though I Mississippi State is very inconsistent. They're playing a Missouri team who blew them out at home, so I expect Missouri to bounce back because even they're kind of like Vanderbilt in the way they've been sliding recently. But they could ride the ship a little bit against Mississippi State if they are able to. And Tech A&M over Texas is kind of what I'm predicting. Arkansas Ole Miss, another game that Arkansas. I mean, I think Arkansas is in regardless, but beating Ole Miss wouldn't hurt. Obviously, still not sure what I think of Ole Miss. I think they're more talented than Mississippi State. I'd probably pick them over Mississippi State for who would make like a tournament run. But yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure which one that would be. And then yeah, Auburn, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama have all gotten buys, so it'll be interesting to see what team plays who once the quarterfinals happen also on Friday. Um, so yeah, I guess the SEC is on Friday as well. Um, because sometimes they change it. Sometimes the SEC final is on Saturday, um, which is weird. But anyway, Um, yeah, so already gone over the or I've already gone over the Big East, the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, and then yeah, the Big 12. Uh, BYU versus Iowa State. It's a rematch of the penultimate game of the final week of the regular season, where BYU beat Iowa State in Hilton Coliseum in overtime. That will be a very interesting game to watch side by side with the Indiana Oregon game, which again I'm very nervous about. Texas Tech plays Baylor. I think Texas Tech will win, although Baylor could pull off an upset if VJ Edgecombe and Robert Wright, if those guys play well. I could see it. I've already said Arizona is likely to go down to Kansas, but but either team losing would be admittedly pretty funny. So this is kind of like just a meteor type game, and then Houston versus Colorado. As funny as it would be, Houston is not losing against Colorado, but. Yeah, so with that being said, oh yeah, so the Big West as well. So yeah, lots of Big West teams in action. UC Ir Oh yeah, so I guess they don't play. Yeah, that's right. They don't play until the semifinals. So UC Santa Barbara will be facing Cal State Northridge, and then um, Cal Polytechnic will be facing UC Riverside as well. Um, Definitely will be interesting to see how that ends up working out. Um, yeah, so yeah, they play in the semifinals, so they do not play yet. But UC Irvine and UC San Diego, um, likely, at least if I had to guess, those that would be the Big West Championship matchup. But either way, still a matchup that is very much worth watching because that's going to be a potential upset pick, um, potentially, whichever team ends up getting in. So I'll be very much looking forward to that. Um, the AAC has also started. The quarterfinals, I believe, start tomorrow because their championship game is also on Sunday. So teams like Memphis and North Texas and UAB are playing tomorrow, not today. Like Temple's in action. The A10 quarterfinals will also start tomorrow. So teams like VCU and George Mason, and I believe Dayton as well, aren't playing uh, until tomorrow. So a lot of teams still yet to play in their respective conference tournaments. But when that does happen, it will be very very intriguing. Um, yeah. Also, the MAC is in action. Yeah, Akron will be playing. Bowling Green as well. So it'll be interesting to see if Akron can run the table in the MAC. But if not, um, expect a team. I mean, but even then, I just still don't think Akron's losing. Although at the same time, it could be Miami, potentially uh, Miami of Ohio, rather. Not Miami, Florida at 14-4. That's the only other team I can really see pulling off an upset. I can't really see Toledo or Ohio pulling off an upset in the semifinals. So I believe it's probably Akron that gets in, but Miami of Ohio would probably be my next best guess if I had to say. So yeah, that's about all I have to say on that note. So I should, like as I said, I'll probably have a podcast out on Saturday night or slash Sunday morning whenever I get to it. So probably keep your eye out on that. Just recapping the games and then previewing Selection Sunday, which is going to be really exciting. Very excited to do this podcast while March Madness is going on. So make sure you all listen to that because I'm very excited for it. Um, but yeah, so I think that other than that, pretty much that's all I have to say for tonight. And hope you all have a good rest of your week. And if you're keeping up with college basketball as I am, hopefully, hopefully you'll be having a really good time as well. So thanks again. Thanks very much for listening, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.